It's no secret that the Dexter show made a lot of changes from the books. But one of the most surprising differences was Harry Morgan. In the books, Dexter's foster father isn't just more flawed, he's basically a new character. But aside from helping raise Dexter, what really sets Harry apart in the books? Differences in original sin. There is no prequel to the Dexter book series, and Harry is dead before the events of the first written installment take place. Luckily, Harry's past is closely examined throughout the original novels nonetheless. And because Dexter is slowly gaining more and more information about his father's past as the series goes on, Dexter Original Sin had a lot of source material to base its portrayal of Harry on for the show, and there are plenty of differences to note. In the original show Dexter, it's revealed that Harry was having an affair with Dexter's mother, Laura Moser, while she worked as a criminal informant for Miami Metro's homicide department. Dexter Original Sin gives even greater insight into just how deep their relationship really was.
Yeah, we had a little bit of excitement earlier, but we got through it.
The show depicts the pair as almost falling in love before Harry's family and work responsibilities get between them. Laura's work as a CI for Miami Metro eventually leads to her gruesome death at the hands of the cartel in both the books and the shows. But in the books, the events that led up to her demise differ from the show, as does her relationship with Harry. As mentioned, the show's representation of Harry and Laura's relationship includes a steamy extramarital affair, but in the books, there is no mention of a romantic relationship between them. Instead, in the novels, there are references to the two of them having more of a personal relationship than Harry had with most other informants, but there is no indication that they were carrying on an affair. In fact, there is no reference to Harry cheating on his wife Doris at all. The novel's version of Harry shows his primary focus and relationship being with his son Dexter and his attempts to teach Dexter how to survive as a killer. Dexter's adoptive mother, Doris, is only a background character in the books. Her marriage to Harry is a given, unthreatened by other women, and is not really a focal point of the storyline at all. This is vastly different from Dexter Original Sin and the fourth season of Dexter. In season 4 of the original series, the show introduces a major subplot that includes Deborah figuring out that Harry was sleeping with several of his criminal informants throughout his tenure with the Miami Metro Homicide Department.
I was one of his girlfriends, if that's what you're asking.
As she digs further and further into her father's past, she is steadily getting closer to discovering the file on Laura Moser, still unaware that Laura was Dexter's biological mother. Likewise, in Dexter Original Sin, the illustrious affair between Laura and Harry is given a lot of attention as the series develops. In this regard, Harry actually seems like a better man in the books than in the show, but that is not the case for the rest of these distinctions. Another major difference between Harry in the books and in the shows is that Harry had a son before Dexter. There is absolutely no mention of a Harry Jr. in the books. As far as the books are concerned, Doris and Harry's first child was Dexter after they adopted him. This was soon to be followed up by the birth of their biological daughter, Deborah. In Dexter Original Sin, however, Harry and Doris are shown as having a biological son named after the father. Unfortunately, Harry Jr.'s life was cut incredibly short. In the show, the boy died as a very young child after drowning in the family swimming pool one day when Harry was supposed to be watching him. Though Harry tries to rescue the boy, he is too late, and Doris returns to their home to find her child being carried away in a hearse. This event highlights yet another major difference between Harry in the shows versus the books. In the show, following the death of their only son, Harry and Doris tried time and time again to conceive another child, but to no avail. Harry feels responsible for Harry Jr.'s passing, and it is implied that this partially influences his decision to adopt and protect Dexter after his mother is murdered. But in the books, this is not the case. While Harry does feel an air of responsibility to take Dexter and his older brother Brian in once they are found in the shipping container, this is almost exclusively due to the fact that his CI, Laura Moser, died while working on his case. It is not related to any longing to replace the son he once had. It is also not because of some romantic attachment that he had to Laura. Harry was the first officer on the scene in both iterations, but his decision to adopt Dexter...
What about Dexter?
We know that the state doesn't want to split siblings, but
was fueled by completely different, perhaps more selfish motives in the books. But the differences don't stop there. Personality differences. It was not long after taking in Brian and Dexter that the Morgans recognized the darkness that lived within Brian.
So I'm afraid we can't handle his level of trauma.
In Dexter Original Sin, there is a major event that causes Harry to abandon Brian. Brian tries to smother the baby Deborah for being too noisy.
Why did you do that?
Too noisy.
And slaps Harry across the face before breaking the glass out of their front door. This outburst is ultimately what causes Harry to place Brian back into the foster system. In the books, however, one particular event is never specified. It's only said that Harry almost immediately saw Brian as a lost cause, too far gone to be reformed due to the trauma he had experienced. When the show introduces the plotline of Brian trying to kill Harry's baby daughter, it makes his decision to get rid of Brian and separate him from his only brother seem more logical, almost understandable even, as if he is only trying to protect his wife and children. The shows tend to humanize Harry in a way that the books do not. The shows present him in a light that is more relatable, and his character's choices, though questioned by many, seem less cold and calculated than they are known to be in the books. Still, eventually, Harry Morgan learned of his adoptive son's dark urges. He discovered Dexter's desire to kill when Dexter was just a young boy. While Brian's antisocial behavior was clear almost as soon as Harry and Doris took him in, Dexter's took some time to materialize. This is true in both the books and the shows. However, there is a difference in how Harry responded to this discovery and how Harry saw Dexter once he realized. In the novels, once he learned of Dexter's darkness, Harry made almost no attempt to eliminate it. He only aimed to control and hone his son's compulsions to achieve his own ends. Harry had seen many criminals slip through the cracks of the justice system, and the frustration of that gave him a sort of darkness of his own. When he realized that Dexter had the urge to kill, he told his young son that there are people who deserve it.
Harry always said there were plenty of people who deserved to die.
He does this in both the books and the show. And while that is an insane thing to tell a child in any case, the way the conversation happens in the books has a far darker tone to it than it does in the shows. In the shows, Harry comes off as a desperate father trying his best to protect his son and teach him a sense of justice.
As a cop, I only fire my weapon to save a life. That's a code I live by. Killing must serve a purpose, otherwise it's just plain murder.
Also in the shows, Harry initially seems distraught over Dexter's urges. Harry would prefer that his son was not a killer. It seems the only reason he formulated the code with the help of Dr. Evelyn Vogel was to save Dexter from ending up in jail or worse.
2 weeks ago, you told me that your son Dexter had asked to see the actual scene of a homicide.
He kept asking and asking, so I decided to give him what he wanted.
There are many instances of Harry trying to socialize Dexter in the show, speaking to him like a normal person.
She wanted you to ask her to the dance, Dexter.
That's not what she said.
Well, you have to learn their signals.
And trying to reform him from his antisocial ways so that Dexter could live a happy and normal life. This is not exactly the case in the novels. Though Harry does direct Dexter to hunting animals as opposed to humans in the beginning, it's almost as if he is only doing this so that his full plan can come to fruition. If Dexter were to slip up and kill a person and then get caught, Harry would not be able to train him up as the extrajudicial executioner he envisioned.
I did the right thing in training you.
Much like in the show, Harry wanted to keep Dexter out of jail in the books, but it seemed like that was only because he knew that he could weaponize Dexter's inclination to kill for what he saw as true justice and sometimes revenge. Harry is incredibly calculating in the books. He seems almost completely detached from the responsibility he had as a father to get help for his disturbed child. Had he gotten the proper professional help for Dexter, he would have been protecting his son, his whole family, and the public. But Harry is convinced that Dexter is too damaged from his time in the shipping container to be anything other than a killer, and he decides to capitalize on that. This theme is consistent across the books and shows, but Harry is far less torn up about Dexter's twisted urges in the books than he is in the show. He sees Dexter's darkness as an opportunity in the books. He controls his son with an iron fist and formulates the code only to keep Dexter out of prison so he can continue the mission of serving justice, but not necessarily to give Dexter a better life. Similarly, in the written version, Harry does not feel an undying loyalty to Lara that leads him to protect Dexter as he does in the show. This makes sense because there was not as deep a relationship between Lara and Harry in the books. Still, Harry's actions did indirectly lead to Lara Moser's death, so perhaps that loyalty to protect her children should have been there despite the lack of a romantic connection. But he doesn't see it that way. If he felt that kind of responsibility, Harry would have probably looked into getting Dexter the necessary help. Maybe he would have even given him back up to the adoption system the way that he had done to Brian, or maybe he'd have kept them both. But no, he sees Dexter as a monster, but a malleable one. Harry knew he could shape Dexter to be whatever he wanted him to be, and he did not hesitate to take advantage of that fact. Harry is a disturbed man in this way. Who knows what Dexter could have become without his influence? This is impossible to know due to the fact that Harry did not see any other options for Dexter himself. Even if he had, would he have explored them and tried to rehabilitate Dexter? According to the books, probably not. Harry's choice to mold Dexter into a skilled murderer seems almost inevitable in the novels because it was probably always his prerogative after he realized that Dexter wanted to kill. When you sit with the idea of training a child to kill others, it's easy to see why people debate the veracity of Harry's skills as a father, police officer, and community member more broadly. Add the coldness that Harry exhibits in the novels, and you get an even more disquieting image of the man who raised America's favorite serial killer. Conclusion. Harry Morgan had a number of issues of his own. He was not a reasonable father. He abandoned Brian, the child of a woman who was murdered on his watch, but kept his brother. He constantly compromised his job as an officer of the law by committing one corrupt act after the other. He raised his only remaining son to be a killer and made no attempt to get him professional help. He may have been the true monster of the Dexter universe. It's hard to believe that he could be an even more unsavory character in the books than he was in the shows, but that is exactly the case. In general, the books are darker than the show overall, but Harry's character development is perhaps one of the most disturbing elements of all. In the shows, he may have raised his child to be a murderer, but that was almost like a last resort, and at least he seemed to have a genuine concern for Dexter's welfare. In the shows, Harry was invested in Dexter's growth as a member of their family and the community as a whole. He went out of his way to keep Dexter from killing human beings for as long as he could. He went beyond hunting trips and cold conversations about the gray areas of morality. In Dexter Original Sin, Harry even went so far as to help Dexter get into and graduate from college as a pre-med student, falsely believing that handling cadavers would keep his son's urge to kill people at bay. Obviously, the shows still presented the many flaws of Harry Morgan. After all, he developed a code to help Dexter kill people just in case, and he abandoned his brother Brian not long after they both witnessed their mother's murder and dismemberment. He had several affairs while married, and many of them were with people who were his powerless subordinates. They were desperate, and they were his informants, and that power imbalance is hard to overlook. All of this behavior, of course, jeopardized innumerable cases for Miami Metro, even if indirectly. And more directly, Harry actively compromised cases. He lied to his partner about a serial killer that he identified, and he had official department files doctored.
I saw you steal the file from Tampa PD.
To keep his misdeeds from being exposed while saving his own career.
I just want to triple check that all mentions of Dexter have been removed from Laura Moser's case files.
Not only that, he also neglected his first son into an early grave and went on to neglect his only daughter Deborah as well. All of this in the name of training Dexter to kill others while protecting himself. Harry Morgan, as the show presented him, was no saint, but he is even scarier in the books. He was way less interested in Dexter's personal development in the novels. He taught his son to be a killer and then used him as a weapon as he saw fit, starting with Nurse Mary. He wasn't made to be cheating on his wife in the books, but he was incredibly negligent to almost everyone who was not Dexter. So negligent, in fact, that he would give Dexter's only known relative away because he saw him as too damaged. It could be argued that this decision was yet another traumatic blow to Dexter's young psyche. With such a traumatic past, It is only reasonable that Dexter would experience darkness, depression, detachment, and more, but Harry never even tried to get Dexter help for those issues in the books. He almost immediately decided to teach his child to kill people efficiently when he should have tried to teach him not to kill at all. Harry allowed his own personal issues and resentment for the justice system to impact the lives of countless people in the books. By abandoning Brian with no clear reason, he bred yet another serial killer, a serial killer who went on to torment the city of Miami. Brian had numerous victims. He stalked and hunted down Dexter, and even tried to kill Harry's own daughter, Deb, after finding his long-lost brother. Harry was a better cop and husband in the books, but one of the worst father figures a child could be stuck with. But whether you're reading the books or watching the shows, one thing is for certain: there really is no telling what Dexter's full and true potential would have been without the toxic and icy influence of one Harry Morgan.